To begin, can you please state your name?
Gene Bernstein.
Can you tell me about the case that you recently won?
Yes, I recently won a very difficult landlord-tenant case in a co-op where I'm the sponsor, and we won the case against a rent-stabilized tenant who had been there for a long, long time, and in fact I believe his parents had been there before him.
What was wrong with this tenant? Why did you come to our office in the first
This
place?
tenant is probably 60 years old or so. It's kind of hard to tell. He is such a disheveled mess. His apartment was a total wreck, overrun with roaches, rats, foul odors. It was a health hazard. It was a safety hazard. We had complaints from neighboring apartments, and we tried over a period of several years to get him to clean the place up. Even offered to let our staff come in and clean it for him, and he would never comply with our requests. So we're trying to get him evicted.
What did Adam Leitman Bailey P.C. do for you?
Well, bottom line, they won the case, although it's been appealed several times, and we've won every appeal. And I was told going in that it's very hard to win a case in landlord-tenant against the tenant, so it was a nice victory.
How do you think that you managed to win the case if it's difficult to do that in that court?
Well, I have to give most of the credit to the firm. Carolyn Rualo was working on it, Adam was working on it. They, did a lot of good homework, brought in people to testify, not only the adjacent apartment neighbors, but people like the superintendent who came in and gave firsthand testimony of how disgusting the apartment was. The exterminating company that works for the building was brought in. That fellow testified that in 15 or 20 years of business, this was, I think he said, one of the 10 worst apartments he'd ever seen. They also were very open to my suggestions. I actually sat at the table with them in the courtroom, which I'd never done before, and suggested questions to ask and answers that we should try to elicit.
Can you tell me about the trial?
I think we were a total of about 5 days in the courtroom. It probably took 4 or 5 months because of adjournments. The tenant was an attorney himself. We're not sure what kind of law he practiced, but he was representing himself, and fortunately for us, he was making all kinds of wild personal claims about me as a sponsor or the managing agent of the building, having vendettas, and he didn't really address much of the issues that were raised. And I think we won, on the strength of just hard evidence and facts.
What was the best thing that the firm did for you?
Aside from winning the case? I think what really impressed me was their openness to letting me help out. Even though they were very well prepared, from a legal point of view, they were not as knowledgeable, obviously, about the building and about this individual and about some of the things that actually were, I think, decisive. For example, there were neighbors on 2 sides, and only the neighbor on one side complained, and the defendant brought in the neighbor on the other side who didn't complain and said, look, this person doesn't have a problem. And what Adam and Carolyn wouldn't have known necessarily is that neighbor, the abutting apartment was just a solid wall. So there was no place for any of the vermin in the defendant's apartment to get through to the other, whereas the side where they were complaining, they had a back-to-back bathroom, so there was piping and holes in the wall and whatnot, and obviously that's where rodents, roaches, whatever, could infiltrate.
Can you explain what you think the firm's best qualities were in assisting to your needs throughout this case?
Number one, they did their homework very well and really knew the law, and so this guy, he would try ad hominem attacks and all sorts of things that they were very quick to make objections because there weren't pertinent to the legal issues in the case, and they really knew that side of it very well. And secondly, their openness to my suggestions and my ideas about things to ask him, and contradictory things that he was saying, and things that were just plain not true.
Would you recommend Adam Leitman Bailey P.C. to others?
I would highly recommend him. It was a difficult case because, as terrible as this guy's apartment was, and the judge actually went and took a look at it at one point, because he claimed that he had cleaned up and it wasn't so bad, and his idea of cleaning up and probably the rest of the world is two very different things. And that's actually part of the reason he wasn't granted time for relief, because he already said he had relieved the problem, and the judge said, in fact, if he doesn't know this is bad, giving him more time to clean up something he doesn't think is bad in the first place isn't going to work.
Do we have your permission to post this on our website?
Yes.